26 episode. It took me 26 episodes to kind of figure out what I'm going to be talking about and what I'm going to be naming the show. Well, it sounds ridiculous, right? Because it's like, what took you so long, and why does it take you so long to figure out, what this show is going to be all about, and what you're going to name this show as well? Well, the truth of the matter is that I decided that I wanted to, embark on this daily life show. By the point in time, I wasn't quite sure what to say and what is it that I'm going to be talking about. And so, the main focus for me really is that I was just kind of, just really thinking of, well, I would just say whatever I want to say, and yeah, that's how it's going to be. Now, of course, what happened was that I along the way I decided that, hey, maybe I would want to talk about this whole idea of me, building and creating things during this circuit breaker here in Singapore. And well, there's a whole bunch of things that I've created, and I can't wait to share with you over the next few days. Some of it which you already know, like for example, the online course confidence checklist. But as I was releasing more and more products itself, I was kind of getting a better sense of what is it that I want to be talking about here. So it took me the whole afternoon today to really review, and after doing my weekly review itself, really got me thinking about what exactly do I want to talk about, and what is so pertinent about this show that I want to share, and I want to continue doing it. And so I made a commitment today. Did a fair bit of investing into putting in some money in terms of hosting, as well as gear, as well as the software that's allowing me to do that. So come together. I will share more in terms of how I'm putting everything together. But the point of the matter is that right now there are so one aspect of it that I have always been very, very big about, it's this whole idea about business principles. I believe, in my years of work with organizations, small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as schools, I believe that every organization must adhere to a set of business principles. And these business principles will remain the same throughout the lifetime of the organization. That's the strategies and the tactics and the tools that the organization will use will evolve from time to time. To give you an example, when you're looking at business principles, and business principle, one of the key business principle is that we have to be different from our competitors, right? So that is a business principle. That doesn't change in 1950, that doesn't change in 1990, and that doesn't change in 2020. So the principle is, I want to be better than the competition. And however, the strategy that you would deploy in, let's say, 1990 and in 2020 would be very different, right? So the strategy will be different because the environment and the landscape, it's different, as well as the amount of resources at our disposal, it's also very different. And hence, to adhere or to be shackled to the old way of doing things, it isn't going to be effective anymore. And so one thing that I'm really, really big on is business principles, because I believe that one has to have this business principles, down right, and then the strategies and the tactics and the resources and the tools can evolve over time. So that's one aspect of it that I will want to talk about. Now, of course, the business principles has to come from somewhere, right? And I do not know whether you have done this, but give it a shot, right? If you land on any page on Wikipedia, and if you keep clicking the first link there is, if you keep clicking it, by the fourth or the fifth click, you would almost always come to this final page, and this final page is about philosophy. In other words, what shapes our thinking, what shapes our mindset, what shapes our behavior in general is based on a certain set of philosophy, right? And this philosophy is something that it's, like the fundamentals of it. And these are the things that kind of give birth to the principles and then the tools, right? And so the philosophy that I have been studying is Stoicism, and I must admit that I am still a very, very elementary level student in terms of Stoicism. I just got started. I mean, I have been reading about it, but only recently did I get serious about practicing it. And so one of the key things that really attracted me to Stoicism was the key idea that we have to be able to differentiate between what we can control and what we cannot control, right? I'll get into more detail about that in subsequent episode itself, but essentially what we can control are three things: our thoughts, our desire, and our actions. So these are the three things that are, within our control itself. And of course, everything else, it's outside of our control. And, with that philosophy, with that thinking in place, I think it clears up a lot of things for me. And so that kind of links to the business principles. So in business principles itself, you cannot control what the competition do. You cannot control what your customer perceive of you. You cannot control whether the market is going to be favorable towards you or not. But what is it that you can control? So what you can control at the business level when it comes to thinking is the set of beliefs, right? The set of beliefs, that is the thinking part. And then what about the desire? The desire part, it's really, the vision and the end goal that the company wants to arrive at. And then, of course, the actions would be the things that you would do to kind of execute on that. And of course, so right at the top, you have Stoicism. Right in the middle, you have a set of business principles that remains the same despite the whatever situation is. It always remains the same. However, depending on situation, depending on context, depending on where you are, the strategies and the tools can change, and they will change, and they should change. And so the third part that I want to talk about, it's really about the tools. And the main rage that I have been looking at, in the last couple of weeks, and in fact, that's something that I have been using the last couple of years is this whole concept of no code. I think I've talked about this before, but right now a lot of people think that I gotta get my kids to learn how to code. However, we are coming to a situation whereby you do not really need to know how to code unless you want to be a software developer. But you do not really need to know how to code just to use some of this software, or to even build your own, software, or to build your website, for example. You do not need to code. You do not need to know how to code. And in fact, there are a bunch of no-code tools, for example, like Webflow, that allows you to build a website without writing a single line of code. And so if you think about it, we have come from the era of MS-DOS to Windows 95, and then, of course, to what we have right now. Right, and many a times, the thinking about the terminal or the CPROM, it's something that many people right now do not understand. And really, is there a need for them to understand? Not really, unless they want to be, a software developer, or they want to be a programmer, for example. But for you and I, we do not need to know that. Knowing that, does it help? Perhaps, right? But we do not need to know that to create what we want to create. And so we need to leverage this set of tools called the no-code tools that will enable us to build something very quickly, and as well as very beautifully, in a way that allows us to be able to execute on our strategies that are aligned to our business principles that stem from the philosophy that we have. And so, the three things that I would really like to share with you, really, it's, the thinking behind it, and, the principles, the workflow, as well as the tools. Right. And so once you have all this thing in place, essentially, you will be able to execute on what you want to work towards. So take, for example, the concept of the concept of, let's say I want to collect details from participants, which actually this is what I did. So what I did was that I will be conducting a series of training for a group of middle managers. And one of the key things that I wanted to make sure that I do not assume is to know them and to be able to understand where they think they are at and how I could help them. And so, the best way to do that, of course, is to get them to fill out a survey. And of course, there are many tools that you can do that with ease, right? I mean, you could use a Typeform, you could use Google Form, which many people uses. And so the tool that I use is Airtable. So I use Airtable to help me, create the form, and at the same time allow me to capture all those information into a database that then becomes a source of list of people that I have trained over the years. So as I collect all this information from the participants itself, I then have an aggregated point of view of, people that come to my workshop specifically for strategic thinking. What are their struggles? What are their main, challenge in terms of executing, in terms of thinking strategically? What is it that's holding them back? That's something that I want to know, because once I'm able to help them identify what is it that they are facing, what is that impediment that they are up against, that it's impeding on them being able to effectively execute or think in a strategic manner. Once I know that, I am then able to design a program that is catalytic in nature to help them cross the threshold. You see, a lot of time we may even be intellectually, we kind of know certain thing, but the problem is that we are not executing on it because there is something that is blocking us. So like right now, you may know about podcasting, but why is it that you are not doing it? Because you know that there is always an opportunity for you to create something in the podcast itself, right? And it's possible for you to put out content and to put out great content to reach out to the very people that you want to reach. And so, what is it that's going to stop you from doing that? Obviously, there are certain things. So sometimes, the things that are stopping you could be resources, right? You do not have the gear. Sometimes the thing that is stopping you could be external, right? You just don't have the right environment, or you're afraid that your bosses might tune in and they might not like the idea of you doing your own broadcast, for example. Or the problem or the challenge could be you don't think that you're good enough, and so you're not doing it at all. So whatever the case may be, the point is that until and unless you are able to figure out what is that key impediment stopping you from taking the very action that will help you achieve your goal, once you're able to figure that out, and if you're able to get someone to help you overcome that, that's where you have a winner, right? That's where you are able to move forward, make progress itself. So the whole idea with this show, really, it's to give you the clarity, and to give you the clarity, and to kind of guide you and share with you the thinking behind certain key business principles, and what are the tools that can help you execute based on those business principles in today's context. Not what worked 3 years ago, not what worked last year, but what works right now. Because we all know that right now, given the new norm, certain things are being challenged, certain norms are being challenged, certain concepts are being challenged, and you want to be able to accurately tease out and know what is the best way forward to execute and to be able to address this whole thing and to help you move towards your goal. And so that's my job, right? That's my job. It took me 26 episodes to figure that out. But now I'm here. And so every day I would be sharing with you something relating to Stoicism, something relating to business principles, something relating to tools, and how you can execute that tool to help you solve a problem. Right? So I'm going to come up with themes, for example, like, Mondays, we're going to be talking about the mindset, right? Mondays, we're going to be talking about mindset. And then Tuesday, it's where we are going to be talking about, what are some of the principles that we have to look at when we talked about business, right? And then on Wednesday, that is where we're going to go deep dive into the processes it's going to look like. Thursday, we are going to be talking about the tools, right? The no-code tools that allows you to execute on that. It could come in the form of a demo, or something that allows me to show you how to do it. On Friday, I'm gonna be looking at the possibility of inviting some of you to the show, because I want to kind of know what you're struggling with and what is it that I can help you. And Saturday, it's more of a recap of what happened throughout the week itself. And then on Sunday it's where I'm gonna set the tone for the week ahead. And so with this format, that's what I'm gonna experiment with. I'm not sure if this is gonna stick, but that's something that I'm gonna experiment with. If you have thoughts, questions, comments, ideas, feel free to share that with me. And tomorrow we'll be back talking about mindset. And I'll talk to you on the next one. You take care, stay safe, and bye for now.